We have no time to lose this week because today we are talking about our guesses on who we think will win each Game Awards category, including which game we think will win Game of the Year 2024. Welcome to the Grow Up, Level Up Gamers Club. Wow, it didn't lag this time.
I was going to say it a little early that time. It was keeping us guessing.
last 2 weeks, I think it was like a nice 5-second delay before the thing came in. But welcome to Grow Up, Level Up Gamers Club, everybody. My name is Samson, a.k.a. Samson XP on all the socials, except Blue Sky, where I managed to snag SMSN. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about our Game Award guesses this week. And to join me on that endeavor is the ever hardworking, toque-wearing Sir Dr. JM, a.k.a. Jordan. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. And I was going to say, that's right. It's a toque, not a beanie. Shove it, Americans.
Yeah, I'm Canada, number one.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, actually, breaking news today, with the time I sent you earlier. Our Prime Minister in Canada announced today that they are cutting taxes, or one of our taxes, for certain categories, pretty much December until February, which is like a really random surprise. This doesn't usually happen ever. Politics aside, like that's really awesome because now I think we lose what the GST, the general sales tax, on video games and toys and card games and board games, among other life stuff, like diapers for babies and food and takeout and all that.
All the non-essentials.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, if you're Canadian, finally we get a win in our video game pricing shenanigans. Yes, Jordan.
Reading this announcement, I don't know if it is a fact or if it is in the works, because it does say the government is proposing that the GST/HST be fully and temporarily relieved on holiday essentials, blah, 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 blah. So, and now the range they're also talking about is December 14th through February 15th. A lot of people will have a lot of their shopping for the holidays done already. But regardless, some important context around that. I don't know if it is for sure. If it is, holy cow. That's that's amazing. And that's a big relief because obviously, now is the time. A lot of people are struggling, obviously.
This was like of course, everywhere in the world, and in North America, things are going higher and higher. So if this actually goes through, then stuff such as restaurant meals, beer, wine, and cider, which is just in time for New Year's, children's clothes, toys, books, Christmas trees, which is like if you're buying your Christmas tree a week before Christmas, that's kind of funny.
And you know what? That article that you have does speak as though it is fact. The article that you sent me earlier today, which is a Government of Canada article, is the one that I was looking at where it says proposing. So I don't know what's going on, but regardless, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal. Maybe we'll revisit this in a couple of weeks, see if we're actually successful with doing it, see what consoles we end up buying. Probably not a good idea.
Yeah. Here's another thing. You guys out west, you have PST. So I believe you will still have PST.
Yes.
We in Alberta, we don't have PST. We only have GST.
What?
So there will be literally no tax on the services at all. If I am understanding this properly. So we don't have a PST or an HST. So
a provincial sales tax. Yeah.
Yes.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's too late to drive over, or it's all the mountains are full of snow.
Do your holiday shopping here.
Yeah, exactly. Or have a buddy that lives in
good point.
In Alberta.
I'll mail it to you.
Yeah, exactly. That's wild. Anyways, tangent aside. Before we get into our topic of the show, where we are going to go through each Game Awards category and determine our picks on, or our guesses, predictions on who we think is going to win, we're going to talk briefly about what we've been playing this week. Jordan, would you like to start, or should I do my little spiel?
Oh, man. You should do your spiel.
All right. This week, I only played really one game. I've been dabbling in some other ones, but I think the one that stood out is the one I talked about last week, Beastieball, which, for those who haven't caught up on last week's episode, Beastieball is a 2v2 Pokemon-like, where you don't battle, but you play volleyball matches, quote unquote. There's a lot of Pokemon analogies in this game. We talked a lot a lot about it last week. Like, you go into the wild, you catch critters, you train them, they evolve, and yes, there is evolution in this game actually. They metamorph, I believe is the term.
Okay.
You go through a league, you fight the gym battles, and then you go through that loop. And I would say I'm pretty hooked. It's for the first time. Like, I haven't played it as much as I'd like to. Life gets busy. You know, one thing we like to bring up is that we play games at our 5 to 9 after our 9 to 5. But I would like to. This is a game that I actually look forward to getting back to, which is a. Nice. I don't think I've said that about a game in a while this year, other than like Balatro, and maybe like some story-driven games that eventually end. I feel like there's a lot more to do in this game. I'm not that far in, but just exploring and going through the motions of battling and training. It is challenging just because I don't know the systems in and out like a Pokemon. And I'm discovering new stuff along the way, like new attacks and new creatures. So that's been a lot of fun. And so, yeah, that's the game that's been taking up my time, playing it on both Steam Deck and PC. The cloud save works flawlessly. I think last week I said that I thought the game was a little fast, like the when it would show you like so-and-so Frankie powered up, and then like before I could even finish that sentence, it swoops away. I checked the settings, and there actually is a slower animation toggle setting as well as a faster one. So the one in the middle was the default one. You can go slower or faster, which actually has helped a lot. I find that I'm now, and maybe this is just my time with the game, I'm now understanding like, oh, I should have a block move on this character. I should be moving certain characters in certain spaces because this kind of attack is coming.
Right.
So naturally, I feel like I'm getting more and more out of the game as I keep playing. So really looking forward to playing more Beastieball. I don't want to give it a review score yet because I'm not done, but definitely stay subscribed and follow wherever you can to get that Beastieball review when it's ready. It's still cooking in the oven.
Awesome.
Yeah, Jordan, what about you? What has occupied your 5 to 9 all week?
I mean, I don't have a ton of new stuff to talk about. There's been we'll say 3 games that I've primarily played. Like you know, I dip into all sorts of different things throughout the week. Lots more Pokemon TCGP. Still making my way through there.
Congrats on getting to 45 wins, by the way.
Thank you. I did it. I accomplished it. Now I'm just working on filling out the deck before the season ends, which is coming up on Wednesday next week. So just, you know, PSA for everyone out there.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is.
It's the end of the month.
Runs through November 27th. I don't know what exactly the season is. Maybe it's a month long if the game released on October 27th. But anyways,
4 weeks.
I looked it up the other day because I wanted to know how much longer I would have because I still don't have that Pikachu EX. So I can't build the Pikachu EX deck. Anyways.
That's tough.
Yeah. So anyways, spend your hourglasses if you got them because if your collection is not complete, you won't be able to. Well, I should say we don't know when you'll be able to complete more of these 3 decks that we currently have in the rotation. So, and of course, I'm assuming that after this season ends, those decks will rotate out and new decks will rotate in. I could be wrong, but that's my assumption. So,
from what I've heard, I think the next set's not out till January. But,
oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think the booster packs rotate that fast.
So what did I read about the 27th then?
I think maybe that's just the
I literally just Googled November 27th. The
premium pass.
Oh, okay.
The premium pass.
Okay, well then maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll still be able to. I was just telling one of my friends to spend his hourglasses, but he said he has like 7 and I have like 80, so not a big deal. But.
I mean, like I feel like the hourglasses you aren't so different from like my friends who are also hoarding hourglasses, but I feel like they are pretty generous with them. So if you really are trying to fill out that decks, like don't be afraid to spend them because if they're this generous with them now, because you get like 3-4 a day plus, then you'll probably get more the next season as well. But I guess you don't get that first new player boost with all the new missions and stuff. So
yeah, fair point.
It's tricky.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens there. Anyways, point is, I've still been playing it quite a bit. I like it a lot. So there's that.
Yeah. No, it's on your phone, so you end up playing it more because it's just there.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
And you know, I'll touch on a little bit about that. a little later in the show.
Oh.
The other big thing that I finally got a chance to dive into, which you talked about last week, maybe the week before, can't remember, was Overwatch Classic. And of course, if you know my history and I'd say your history to a pretty big extent. Yeah, exactly. Pretty big into Overwatch. So I couldn't resist the pull, jumped into Classic, and actually had a lot of fun. That is coming from someone who used to also enjoy, I can't remember what the arcade mode is called now.
No Limits.
No Limits. No Limits. It's the Chaos one, where it's like all cooldowns are reduced by 50%, and
something Mayhem.
Total Mayhem.
Total
That's what
Mayhem.
it is. Yes. And my classic move on that is you jump into Total Mayhem, you lock Winston, and you are endlessly jumping and shielding, and nobody can ever do anything. And that's all I do anyways. Or you go Junkrat and you just blow everything up. Point is, I jumped into Classic. It's very reminiscent of that because it has, until Tuesday, it had no restrictions. So you could 6-stack Winston, you could 6-stack Torbjorn, you could do whatever you wanted. And it was fun. It also definitely illustrated how broken the game was at the start, which is something you talked about, I think, last week. Characters like Cassidy being able to just obliterate tanks with the
pew pew pew. The Fan the Hammer.
Fan the Hammer. That's the move. And then Roadhog has his interdimensional hook where he can basically hook anything from anywhere and all sorts of stuff like that. So it certainly was fun to jump into. I enjoyed it. I knew it had an end date, so I put a decent amount of time into it just because I was enjoying it. But also I knew that we would be moving on soon enough. And now that we are over a week out from that, I think it's now in 2-2-2 mode, maybe, where it's...
I think it's just one hero limit.
Yes.
Or, right. One hero per team. Yeah.
Yes, so now you can't, 6-stack the same hero. Everyone has to be a different one, but it's not role-locked yet, which I think is the next phase where they go 2-2-2. And it's 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 support characters on a team. So anyways, it's kind of an interesting little experiment. It is kind of fun to go back to, 6 characters, but at the same time, it's just a fun casual mode kind of thing. So anyways, this season of Overwatch will be wrapping up soon-ish, still a couple more weeks. But I've also been kind of getting back into Overwatch just because the OWCS, Overwatch Championship Series, finales are this weekend. So I kind of, I had the itch. Actually, they start tomorrow. By the time you're listening to this, they will probably be already kicked off. So looking forward to watching some competitive Overwatch again, even if I'm not too much in the scene these days. And yeah, that's those two are probably what I spent most of my time with. So
nice. Yeah. I'll definitely tune into the Overwatch Championship Series final weekend just to be curious how they're going to wrap it up. I'll be cheering for Toronto Defiant, just because they are the Canadian team. They are, and I'm curious to see the new hero coming out, Hazard. But maybe we'll talk about that next week once we get a little clearer picture on what that is. Jordan, you messaged me earlier this week and you mentioned God of War Valhalla. Ragnarok Valhalla. Yeah.
Yes. It probably fits better into our next topic, though.
Okay, all right. Let's dive straight into it. Enough dilly-dallying.
You caught me off guard there. Sorry.
Well, the Game Awards, as they do every year, hosted by Jeff Keighley, is coming up in less than 2 weeks. Or 2 weeks to the day of recording, I think.
Yeah, I
think
3 weeks. December
12th. On a Thursday. I remember because I'm going to a concert that night, so it'll be the first one in a while that I don't watch live.
I'll try to watch live then.
Yeah, do your homework. So the Game Awards are coming up, as they do every year. It is pretty much like the quote-unquote Oscars or Emmys, but for video games, hosted by Jeff Keighley and supported by a lot of the whole world's industries, most of them anyway, to determine what is the game of the year in their opinion. So lots of different categories get announced every year, including the Game of the Year. Categories such as Best Fighting Game, Best RPG, Best Mobile Game, Best Audio Design, Best Game Direction, of course, Game of the Year. So just for fun, welcome to the first ever Grow Up, Level Up Gamers Club Game Awards predictions episode, where we're going to go through each category, most of them anyway, and give our prediction on who we think will win. Not necessarily our pick or our favorites, but we're going to pick based on just vibes, our knowledge of the industry, who we think should win. We're going to pick from the nominees who we think will win. And then Jordan is going to be keeping track of everyone, or you can keep track at home. And then after the awards, we'll go back. We'll see who got the most correct. And that is Gaiman, right? But there's no prize at the end. Maybe like maybe cool points.
Yeah.
Ethereal cool points. So if you're listening and you'd like to play along, please feel free. Write down in the comments wherever you're listening on YouTube or Spotify, or even in your notes app on your phone.
Yeah.
Write down who you think will win, send them in, and then maybe we can communicate, or we can do a big get together and
That's
guess
right.
together.
That's right.
So without further ado, if you're watching on YouTube, check it out. I'm about to share the screen, and you can follow along on who we're chatting about. We're going to keep this screen up the whole time.
All right.
But Jordan, do we want to start with best esports team and then move up to game of the year?
There's certainly going to be a few categories that I'm not the most well briefed on. The esports categories are usually those categories.
Same.
Or at least those categories towards the bottom of the list.
We can start with most anticipated game.
I'll be honest, I'm okay with that, because those last 4 categories, I'm very much like, I've looked at them. I don't have much to say about any of them because none of them are Overwatch. So I think, like, I know Faker is nominated for best esports athlete.
Faker's probably going to win.
And I know he's the GOAT, so he's probably going to win.
League of Legends is the best esports game, which is like,
well, we all know it's
who's
Overwatch.
The best sport, man. It's like basketball is better than soccer.
Yeah, you're right.
It's weird.
Very
all right,
subjective.
so we're skipping, for those audio listening, we're skipping best esports team, we're skipping best esports athlete, skipping best esports game, and skipping content creator of the year. Because
do you have opinions on that one?
Content creator of the year? Well, we're not on it, so that's weird.
So who cares, right?
Yeah. No, I don't. I genuinely don't know any of them. Yeah. Except for Queso. I've heard of Queso.
The only reason I'm familiar with any of these is because of the conversation they had on Kind of Funny, where they said, I know Queso, and that's it. And I said, oh, okay, now I know Queso because you said you know Queso, so now by association. Anyways.
Like, I think I've seen TikTok clips of Queso.
Okay.
Yeah. But, man, they really couldn't have picked a better photo for him. It's like him walking out of, is that Waffle House or a store?
Assume these people must submit their picture for this, right?
Yeah, probably on brand as well. It's
good point.
It's just funny. All right, so we're starting with our first real category, most anticipated game, recognizing an announced game that has demonstrably illustrated potential to push the gaming medium forward. All right, so like I said, we're not guessing who we think or who we like the most. I'd be happy to share that though. But we're guessing which game would win the category on December 12th.
Yeah.
So my guess, just based on the audience and maybe the people voting, I think my guess will have to be GTA 6, Grand Theft Auto 6.
You know what?
Yeah.
I have to agree with you on that one. Gonna be a very boring category, but honestly, if GTA 6 weren't there, I think we could have an actual conversation about this category. But I think with GTA 6 in there, it's no contest. Given this is partially voted on by the audience, I believe. I think like 25% of the vote, it takes the audience into account.
Is it 25? I just thought, well,
am I wrong?
Well, maybe we can check the FAQ later, but I believe that it was actually every outlet gets one vote. Right. And then as a collective, the audience also get one vote.
Okay. So yes, sure. Let's go with that. That sounds smarter than what I said. So, I think there's no denying the juggernaut that is Grand Theft Auto 6. Assuming the game doesn't flop next year, it will also probably be nominated for a number of Game Awards categories next year too. So,
okay.
Yeah. I'm with you.
I would actually like to amend that. I'm here in the FAQ. Winners are determined by a blend vote between the voting jury, 90%, and the public fan vote, 10%. So, so a lot more than just one vote.
Sure.
In China, fans can vote for winners on Bilibili. So
great. Thanks.
All right, GTA 6. We think we'll win.
What's your personal? And is it even on this list? Do you have a nom that's not on the list that is your most anticipated?
Yeah, it's an indie game. It's called Big Walk. They announced it last year. It's
walk
about
like cooking?
No, Big Walk like walking down the sidewalk.
Okay.
So they announced it last year. I think it's from the Untitled Goose Game devs. I think.
Oh man.
Panic Button. But no, it's
House.
Yeah. So they announced it last year, and it's a hiking sim with your friends.
Okay.
And you play as these kind of like bird-looking stick figures. But it's one of those where it's either going to be a really relaxing time and shenanigans ensue, or there's like something bigger going on, and you're gonna discover it with your friends.
Dang, dude.
Yeah, if I had to pick from the list, I would say Ghost of Yote. I feel like I'm hankering for some story driven, just artsy, samurai kind of stuff. I got halfway through Ghost of Tsushima before I kind of fell off, but I enjoyed every second of it. So
fair enough.
What about you?
Well, first of all, I'll just say that Big Walk game is a real good pick, and I say that purely based on the fact that they developed Goose Game, because I love Goose Game, as I've talked about on the show before. I had not heard about this, so looking at it now, add it to my anticipated list at least.
Heck yeah.
My most anticipated for next year probably is Ghost of Yote.
Oh man, we're on the same wavelength,
aren't we? I think I've talked about it on the show before. I don't know why, but Ghost of Tsushima, really clicked with me. I can see the flaws that people bring up all the time, repetitive, people say it's
long,
empty open world, which I don't know how much I agree with that, because to an extent, all open worlds are empty. Anyways, the length, that kind of thing. Some people are at odds with some of the story stuff, which is fine. I can see all of that. But for some reason, that game just clicked with me so hardcore. One of the few games that, like, playing through it just made me want to get a Ghost of Tsushima tattoo. I'd love to get Jin Sakai's mask or one of his katanas, something like that. Anyways, I thought it was extremely well done. I'm a huge sucker. I'm a sucker for Sucker Punch.
Sucker for punching.
That's right. So anyways, it's definitely my most anticipated. And I mean, as we've probably shown on this show, I tend to lean more towards the, big budget AAA games in terms of just what I'm playing, right? I think you often are diving into the indie realm. I don't touch indie games too often unless they are on a service like PlayStation Plus. And I think, I've heard really good things about this. Then I'll jump in, as, again, we'll touch on that later in the show too. So anyways.
Excellent. Next category. Best Adaptation, recognizing outstanding creative work that faithfully and authentically adapts a video game to another entertainment medium.
Okay.
Maybe we should have took turns. I forget who went first last time.
Okay.
I think I did. You go first.
You did indeed, and I think my vote has to go for Fallout, because I think Fallout really kind of had this groundswell when it released, and the interesting thing was it was after The Last of Us, which obviously The Last of Us got a lot of attention as well. A lot of praise for being a faithful adaptation, making, changes from the game, but I think for the most part, generally well received. You did have, the woke internet mob hating on it for reasons that don't matter because they were silly. But the interesting thing that Fallout did was take the tone and the themes behind the Fallout games and bring them to life. And I think that really impressed people. And that's why a lot of people did say, I think Fallout might be a better adaptation than The Last of Us. And to me, that was kind of a non-argument. To me, that was more of what you're saying to me is you prefer comedy action over the action drama that is The Last of Us. They could both be good in different ways, right? But I think a lot of people were saying, Fallout did such a better job. And it was kind of like, well, did it do a better job, or is it just more your style, more your flavor, more what you wanted at that time? So anyways, I think Fallout's going to win
at that point. Yeah,
exactly.
I also agree. Fallout's going to win. I agree with all your points. I think it's it's between Arcane and Fallout, right? Like
truly
compared to the other ones.
Yeah.
And I feel like Arcane already had its flowers. I haven't caught up all the way through season 2 yet, so
I haven't either.
So I can't say if it really is the better adaptation, but Fallout was really fun all the way from beginning to end. It's one of the only shows I binged this year, just because it was so engaging and not in like a and not in like a dreadful way. Just wow, right. I can't believe they did this kind of way.
Yeah. And coming back to what I was saying a little bit, I would definitely say it is harder to translate the humor behind a Fallout than it is the drama from A Last of Us into an adaptation. So certainly they deserve their flowers for what they did. But
100%. Next category?
Next category.
Best multiplayer.
Ooh,
for
that's a good category.
Online multiplayer, gameplay and design, including co-op. Massive multiplayer online experiences, irrespective of game genre or platform.
I really like that qualifier at the end. Irrespective of game genre or platform. It really is saying, if it has multiplayer, it can be counted in this category.
That's why Super Mario Party Jamboree is on here. Quickly, the nominees for this category are Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Tekken 8, and Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2.
Yeah, one of these things is not like the other. Just looking at the covers of these, they're all angry men armed to the teeth.
Guns
and then in the middle,
fire.
In the middle, you've got Bowser, Luigi, Mario, and Peach.
It is pretty funny. I do want to play Super Mario Party Jamboree.
I do.
Let's see. Best outstanding multiplayer and gameplay. I'm voting first, eh?
You are.
Or guessing first.
The audience is hanging on the edge of their seat.
I'm torn.
Okay.
Because my heart says Helldivers 2, which will win. But my heart also says Tekken 8, because that also had a big moment.
Okay.
I don't know about best multiplayer, but I feel like Tekken had a moment where I was seeing people pop for the game that I didn't even know played video games.
Okay.
In my circle, at least. And then for Helldivers, definitely had its hooks on everybody for the first couple months of the year there. If I had to make a choice based on the industry and the people voting, it'd probably be Helldivers 2.
Yeah. Okay. Is Helldivers one word? It is. Okay. Oh, but I can't tell if it's inner capped or not because it's all caps here. Darn. Okay. Well, I echo a lot of what you're saying. Do I pick something different just so we don't have three categories that are the same?
There's lots of categories left. There's lots of categories left.
Okay, so because really, just like you, my heart tells me Helldivers 2. I know Helldivers is nominated in a few other categories, and I do think it could take home more than one category, but I think this is going to be the one category where it gets particular attention because of how big it was when it dropped, right? I think in some of the other categories it's nominated in, certainly it deserves to be nominated, but I think some of the other noms are better picks in those categories. So I think this is one where people will go, I didn't vote for it in that category. It's going to get this one.
Awesome. Helldivers 2, lock it in.
Yeah, locked in.
Next category. Best sports and racing.
Oh boy.
For best traditional and non-traditional sports and racing game.
Oh, and this is my pick first, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, there's F1 24, EA Sports FC 25, NBA 2K25, Top Spin 2K25, and WWE 2K24.
Well, having played exactly none of these, having exactly no history with the WWE franchise, the Top Spin franchise, the NBA franchise, EA Sports FC, or what was previously FIFA, and having played a demo once of F1 23, my money's going on F1 24.
Ooh, okay. All right. I'm going to diverge, our first divergent vote here, and I'm going to say EA Sports FC.
Okay.
I just think people like soccer/football games more.
Facts.
I think that worldwide, especially, like lots of people play EAFC. But I do see the appeal of F1. Like that's also a juggernaut on its own. I feel like the other three, the NBA, Top Spin, and WWE, are more like American or region-focused kind of games that might not appeal to everyone. But yeah, I'm going to say EA Sports FC.
All right.
Jordan says F1.
I do indeed.
Are you an F1 enjoyer?
Casually. Of course, just like 90% of the planet, I got into it because of the Netflix documentary show. The interesting thing was actually my dad watched that first season, and then he went all in on F1. So one of my favorite things is when I go back home, for some reason, 90% of the time when I go back home, there's an F1 race on, and my dad usually records them because oftentimes they're at, all hours of the night because they're all over the world. So he often records them, and then once everyone's gone to bed, he'll pop on the F1 race, and him and I will watch them together. So
that's awesome.
I don't keep up with it on my own, but it's a very social bonding experience with my dad. So
yeah, it is. I tried an F1 racing sim once. It's hard. Hurt my hands and arms.
Well, and after he got into F1, I downloaded a demo of F1 23 when he was at my house the one time, and we tried playing it, and it was
tough.
It is tough. Yeah. So
next category, best sim / strategy. Best game focused on real-time or turn-based simulation or strategy gameplay, irrespective of platform. So we have Age of Mythology Retold, Frostpunk 2, Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess, Manor Lords, and Unicorn Overlord. All right. So I'm not really a sim strategy player, although a lot of card games I play are strategy games, though.
Good point.
So I just like the cardboard. Maybe that's why. Was this your pick? Oh, this is my pick.
This is your pick.
Yeah, I think. I'm between two, but I'm gonna think Unicorn Overlord.
Okay.
Because, just I feel like lots of people are talking about it. It sticks out from this list, and I think it just had its core audience, and that core audience will champion it hard. Where if you're this is like my meta gaming. If you're an Age of Mythology fan, maybe you're also a Manor Lords fan, and now the vote is split.
I see.
Gets a little lower, but that's just that's my sim / strategy thinking. So
gotcha. Very strategic of you.
There you go. What about you, Jordan?
What was your other pick? If you mentioned you were between two,
it was actually Age of Mythology Retold.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think nostalgia is strong, so I wonder if people played that and we'll champion it. So
right. Well, I'm pleased to say that my pick is neither of those. My pick is Frostpunk 2, and that is actually largely because of the critical voices I heard talking about it. I'm sure some of them were included in getting it nominated here, and really, a part of what makes me vote for these games is how much have I heard and what have I heard about them. And I've heard enough people say enough good things about Frostpunk 2 that made me interested in Frostpunk 2. Now, have I played it? No. But they made me want to play it, and that's key. So I think, if you know what the game is, it has some really interesting balance and technique behind it. And from what I've heard, it just very quickly can devolve into chaos. And that's what I look for in a sim. So
very cool. Very
Frostpunk
cool. Yeah,
2.
I'll have to check that out because now I'm looking at the Steam page and it does look it looks a lot more complex than I thought it was going to be. For some reason, I thought it was going to be like super, super cutesy. But there's fire in the eyes.
That's
All
right.
Next one. Best family for the best game appropriate for family play, irrespective of genre or platform.
And this is my pick, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think so. Yeah. I picked the last one.
All right. So it's kind of funny because every year I go through these and I look at the nominees and I go, man, I've played, most of the time, maybe 50% of the nominees in a category, right? Maybe I've played 2 of the 5, maybe 3 of the 5. I think this might be the first time that I have played all but one of the nominees in a category.
Wow. Whoa.
And I was shocked at that because this category is best family game. Would I have considered myself a family gamer? No. But then I thought about how often I talk on this show about gaming with my 6-year-old, and I'm like, oh my God, this is me now. This is my category.
100%.
Now, the other thing is, I think all of these were pretty big releases, honestly. Astrobot's probably Sony's biggest release other than maybe Helldivers this year. Princess Peach Showtime, although I don't necessarily think it did what most Nintendo fans hoped for. I do think it was a big release. Heard great things about Super Mario Party Jamboree. That's the only one I've not touched here. Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I will admit that I shouldn't have, but I did get it, and I've played just a small amount of it, enough of it that I had a bit of an opinion on it that was more related to playing it with my child. But anyways, I won't go into that right now. And then Plucky
family
Squire.
Game, yeah. Oh,
I've
yeah,
talked
and
about
Plucky
before.
Squire. Yeah.
So the challenge for me is separating my own personal opinion from what will actually win this category, because it feels a little bit like Astrobot got the nomination in some ways purely because it's cutesy. It's not a Nintendo game. Exactly. This is the what game looks like it would appeal to children, and it's like, well, yeah, sure, Astrobot's kind of a cartoon robot, so of course he does. But for me, what I found, as I've talked about on the show, is it really did work well playing through it with my kid, and I think one day she's going to look back and she's going to see that game the way that I look back on Crash Bandicoot, or the way a lot of people look back on Mario 64, playing it when they were very young, maybe with their parents or someone older, to beat the really hard stuff, or it was their first time beating really hard stuff on their own, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that is to say, if I am being real, I don't necessarily think Astrobot should win this category, but I think it's going to because of the popular vote, honestly. I think Astro will win other categories as well, but I do think there are better. To me, the family aspect is more so the multiplayer kind of aspect. And does Astrobot actually have multiplayer? No. Is that obviously a part of the category? I mean, only one of these is actual multiplayer, and it's Super Mario Party Jamboree. So, anyways.
True. I think that's such a funny bias that I'm guilty of, is like family. Oh, the whole family's playing together at the same time. But no, it's like sometimes parallel play, or just playing while watching is also valid, especially for a family where everyone's different ages, different abilities. So you think Astrobot?
I'm going with Astrobot.
I'm gonna go with the Plucky Squire. I got you. I know how much this game was special to you. So I'm gonna vote for Plucky Squire just based on like your experience. I still have to play this game; it's on my backlog. But I feel like a lot of the comments I heard critically about Plucky Squire was that it was kind of too easy, like it was for kids. So isn't that just perfect for a family kind of setting?
Fair enough.
So I'm gonna vote for Plucky Squire. I hope that enough critics like champion this game to win this category. But
yeah, fair enough.
Next category is Best Fighting. For the best game designed primarily around head-to-head combat. Interesting.
Head-to-head combat.
We have Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising, Marvel vs. Capcom Collection, Arcade Classics, Multiverses, and Tekken 8. I think this is my pick? Yeah.
Your pick.
Let's see. It's kind of funny because, like, I feel like that each has its own really strong community, so it's kind of like where is the critic vote gonna settle on this? The fan vote might be split, but I think I'm gonna go with Tekken 8. I feel like it's been so long since the last one that when it came out, and still to an extent, it is a moment. So I'm gonna go with Tekken 8.
Fair enough. You spoke about that before, and I was wondering if you'd give it its flowers here or not. So makes sense. I echo your feelings towards Tekken 8. My only concern with it is recency bias.
Very true.
My heart tells me that it's going to go to Dragon Ball Sparking Zero because of the reception it had when it launched just maybe like a month and a half, something like that. The challenge that I have with Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is I was under the impression that it is less of a fighting game than it makes itself out to be. I think what I remember hearing was like pretty much anyone could play it as sort of a almost more of a brawler, right? As long as you're not playing, I think, on the hardest difficulty or the harder difficulties, then it can be more of just an action button mashing kind of game, and you play it more for the Dragon Ball, more for the spectacle and everything, which makes me lean towards the fact that, is this really a fighting game? Now, the category says best game designed primarily around head-to-head combat. As far as I know, it is basically head-to-head combat, one-on-one kind of thing, or 2-on-2 at most. So, oh, what the heck? I'm going to vote for Dragon Ball.
All right. Yeah, really good points. I haven't seen too much gameplay of this. I thought it was like a fighting game. It's just more in that arena fider style.
And maybe that is, more along the lines, and I'm just, a dum-dum, but...
just not as experienced.
To me, fighting game is, Tekken, it's Mortal Kombat, it's Street Fighter, even, Marvel vs. Capcom, Grand Blue, like these single pane, even if, they're 3D technically speaking, it's more of that. And Dragon Ball, I did not get the feeling was that. But
fair enough.
Could be
Multiversus is a platform fighter. It's like Smash. It's
get it out of here.
Smash.
Get it out of here.
See you later, Powerpuff Girls.
That's right.
Next category, Best RPG. For the best game designed with rich player character customization and progression, including massive multiplayer experiences.
Well,
okay.
None of these are massive multiplayer experiences, are they? No, they're not.
I don't think any of these are, no.
Oh, this is me, isn't it? First up.
Yeah.
All right. Best RPG. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. There is no best JRPG category, correct?
No.
Or
no.
Is there a turn-based category? I don't believe there is.
I don't believe there is. Let me quickly check on this other window. But
I was going to say, sorry to make you work more, but I think having only played, I'll call it 1.5 of these, but having watched a lot of gameplay of All But Like a Dragon, I want to say this is where Metaphor gets maybe the only category they're nominated. They are nominated in a couple categories. And, to an extent, I don't know the aspects of those other categories that well. I think one of them is sound design or something like that. Yeah, I don't know what the soundtrack to Metaphor is, but I do question that rich player character customization and progression, because I don't know how much of that actually comes into play in Metaphor. If it's similar to the Persona games, which, same developer, and I know it has similarities. I would never say those games have rich player character customization. They have social links, which are relationships you develop with other characters. And I guess you can control build your personas. Anyways, I'm going for Metaphor.
I am also going to go for Metaphor. Just because of what I've heard. It's definitely on my bucket list. I'm going to throw it on the bucket list. I'll play it when I'm old. Don't have time for 50-hour JRPGs right now. But just from what I've heard, it's like the best of the best. Very little critique of it. Whereas for everything else, I've heard some sort of critique. Maybe Elden Ring is like... Elden Ring already got its flowers 1 year, so
there are no critiques of Elden Ring.
So I'm going to go Metaphor as well. I agree with all your points, yeah.
Nice.
Best RPG. Where is where's Beastieball,
True that. Yeah, I think it's technically in early access, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, fair enough.
Next category, Best Action Adventure. For the best action/adventure game, combining combat with traversal and puzzle solving. All right, well, from that, I'm picking first.
I was going to say, are you picking first or am I picking first?
I think I'm picking first.
You are. You're right.
I think, man,
don't steal my vote.
Combining combat and traversal.
Mm-hmm. Combat with traversal and puzzle solving. Don't forget the puzzle solving.
Well, I think it's got to be for my boy Astrobot over there.
Okay.
Astrobot combat, definitely not the most in-depth or anything, but I feel like it's masterful in the traversal and puzzle solving, and it does have combat. Like, I definitely died a lot to stupid boss encounters that I'm not paying attention to, but maybe that's on me. So I'm voting for Astrobot.
Okay. I'm voting for Prince of Persia.
Ooh, yes.
A lot of people have talked a lot of good things about Prince of Persia, the Lost Crown. Did we say the nominees for this one?
Oh, sorry, I did not. So the nominees were, real quick, Astrobot, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, Silent Hill 2, Star Wars Outlaws, and Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom.
Yeah.
And I picked Astrobot.
Yes, and I picked Prince of Persia because those who have played it have certainly championed it quite a bit. And it seems like the type of game that even those who haven't played it much, but, maybe spend 1 or 2 hours with it, big thing everyone talks about is how good it feels, right? Everyone says, this is a masterclass in the Metroidvania style combat and action. So I don't believe it's nominated for any other categories. And I think a lot of people kind of feel like it got snubbed on some categories. So I'm hopeful, for the sake of me being right, I'm hopeful that the critics look at this category and see that. Because, to me, Astrobot's going to win other categories.
Mm-hmm.
Silent Hill 2, I just wouldn't put in this category if it were up to me. It's not up to me. I don't get to nominate these. Star Wars Outlaws, I don't think a lot of people said much good stuff about it. I would say okay to good was the general reception around that, but I don't think anyone was saying it was the best action adventure game. And then Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom, I think people would put more in, maybe those family categories, more of a puzzle category, that kind of thing. So,
yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah.
All right. So our picks are Astrobot and Prince of Persia. Next category is, to make it to muddy the water some more, best action game.
Yes.
For the best game in the action genre, focused primarily on combat. All right, that's a little good distinction. Maybe not focusing on the traversal and puzzle elements, more on the combat, which I'm assuming is like mechanical skill, like mechanics.
Yeah.
I believe you are first, Jordan.
My vote's going for Black Myth.
Ooh, okay.
I look at the nominees for this category are...
Oh, sorry. Yes, nominees are Black Myth Wukong, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. A couple of familiar faces here for sure.
That's right. The big thing that I was going to say is Call of Duty and Helldivers to me feel a little out of place in this category. You can understand how they'd get nominated for action game. For all intents and purposes, a Call of Duty game is an action movie, right? That's the sort of mainstream media comparison. It's a whole nother show to talk about the categories here. And that is one of the problems I have with the Game Awards, is the division between genre and gameplay categories, or game design categories, I'll say.
It's always a mix, yeah.
It really gets muddy and confusing when you're doing sports racing game, RPG, fighting game, but then you get into these action categories, you get into adventure categories, and it's like every game is an adventure, Do you play a character and go on an adventure? Then yes, every game in which you do that is an adventure game, right? So it gets really muddy. So that's a whole nother conversation. But to me, I don't look at a first-person shooter and think it's going to win this category. So, or a shooter in general. So I immediately toss out pretty well 3 of these nominees. That leaves you with Stellar Blade and Black Myth. I think Stellar Blade got a little bogged down in the sexiness of it. And then that leaves Black Myth. And Black Myth, although I don't think it necessarily lived up to the full hype that it had, I think it pulled off a good chunk of what people wanted it to. So my vote goes for Black Myth.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I
Are you
disagree.
voting for them? Are you voting for 2 reasons on the front of Stellar Blade?
It's well, no. So my vote is not Stellar Blade. Okay. Kind of funny though. We our local library rents out or lets people borrow video games. And one of them was Stellar Blade. And then I was like, I wonder how long the wait for this is. It was 9 weeks after release. So I was like, okay, whatever. I put my name down. Like 9 weeks go by. I played a game. Played it for like 1 hour, and I'm like,
oh no,
I can't get over how
too distracting.
I don't even know the word. Yeah, how distracting this game is. And then I found out it was like a Souls-like, and I'm like, I'm not in the mood for that. So I like returned the game the next day.
Fair enough.
So I was saying I actually don't agree that action game can't be a shooter.
Okay.
I think the shooters end up here because I think having a best shooter category just doesn't look good for marketing optics. I think that's why there's no shooter category.
That's a great point.
So my pick is actually going to be Helldivers 2. I think the combat, you're shooting bugs, but there's a lot of depth to that. It's one of those simple to master or simple to learn, hard to master games. I really like the that's on the tip of my tongue. The system where you punch in the arrow keys. Stratagems. Thank you. I really like that system. I think that's such a cool mini game to play while you're panicking because the big bug's right behind you, and now you suddenly have to find a safe space to type in your stratagems. So I think there's a lot of variety of action that you're doing day to day, and the multiplayer part of it is also fun. So
I suppose that makes sense because when I think about the streams that I watched and everything, it is nonstop action, right? You don't you barely have a minute to catch your breath, and when you do, you might be doing something that winds up killing your teammate or something like that, something goofy like that. So did you play Helldivers much?
At the beginning of the year, I played I played a solid month of it. It's kind of progression hooks never got into me. I kind of treated it more like an Overwatch where you go in, do a couple missions, and then I just never felt the need to grind at a certain point.
Gotcha.
But it is quite enjoyable, but it is like your heart always gets going. So I'm not in the mood to
fair enough
to go into my fight or flight response right now. So I ended up falling off, but I enjoyed all that I played of Helldivers. Next category is
that was Helldivers 2 as Samson's pick and Black Myth Wukong as my pick for best action game.
Yes. Thank you, Jordan. Next category, best VR, so virtual reality, or AR, augmented reality. For the best game experience, playable in virtual or augmented reality, irrespective of platform. We got a couple creepy faces here. We got Arizona Sunshine Remake, Asgard's Wrath 2, Batman Arkham Shadow, Metal Hellsinger VR, and Metro Awakening. Funny story about Asgard's Wrath 2. Last year when I went to the Game Awards in person, they had this like see-through screen set up really high up in the sky, like on the street where the Game Awards would end and everyone would walk out. But in the dark, you can't see the screen and it's like see-through. So I think when we walked out, it actually gave a couple of us a spook when we saw like a giant demon coming out of the sky. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Apparently it was marketing for Asgard's Wrath.
That's awesome.
So I was like, that was fun.
Good for them.
Okay. Is it my pick?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I believe so.
Best VR.
I could be wrong, but whatever.
Did Asgard's Wrath 2 review well?
Yes. Very well. If I'm not mistaken, it was being hailed as like the reason to get VR as a hardcore gamer. I think people are very pleased with it.
Then I think my vote will be Asgard's Wrath 2.
Fair enough.
Just because of critical success. I think Batman Arkham Shadow also got reviewed fairly well, but I think it's too new. So not like adoption on VR is always slower. I feel so. And then the other three, Metro is also a big franchise. Metal Hellsinger is also decently popular. I never heard of this Arizona Sunshine zombie guy. I'll look it up.
Arizona Sunshine is a big series as far as I understand, possibly outside of VR, and people really liked it. And then this was its jump to VR, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's kind of a more cartoony zombie shooter than that image makes it look necessarily.
Yeah.
But as far as I understand, people were excited for it to come to VR. So,
okay, interesting.
Yeah.
My pick is still Asgard's Wrath 2. Jordan?
My pick, contrary to what you said, is going to be Batman Arkham Shadow. And there's definitely an aspect of that where I'm voting for it because of the recency bias. It did come out recently and got fairly well reviewed. But I also think that it's got Batman in the title. So it's going to get a lot of the popular vote of people saying, well, I didn't really play any of these, but I'm going to pick Batman because I heard good things. So I myself am kind of doing the same thing with that. But I want to give it its flowers because as far as I know, it was well received. Camouflage Games, the developer behind it, of course, previously making Iron Man VR as well. So they've got some good superhero experience there. And also, funny thing I noticed about this category related to that, Arizona Sunshine and Metro Awakening, both by Vertigo Games. And then Asgard's Wrath and Batman, both published by Oculus Studios. Different developers, but published by Oculus. So pretty clear who the big dogs in VR here, if this is any indication.
Whoever's left, yeah.
Shout out to Sanzaru Games. Of course, for a long time, they were just sort of a, contract developer, helping other studios and things like that. And then they made Sly 4, Thieves in Time, which...
Oh, no way.
Not necessarily, the most well-received Sly Cooper game, but a fun one nonetheless. So.
Oh, very cool. Small world.
That's right.
Next category, and we are coming up to our hour here, so we might go through the next few a little fast. Time flies when you're having fun.
Sorry, I'll talk less.
No worries. It's more for our listeners. If you want to pause and come back later, feel free.
Fair enough.
Best mobile game. Hey, something that applies to us.
Oh boy.
For best mobile game, for the best playable game on a mobile device. Is the Switch a mobile device? One day we'll find out.
Good point.
We have AFK Journey, Balatro, Pokemon Trading Game Pocket, Wuthering Waves, and Zenless Zone Zero. Jordan, your pick first.
I'm debating between the two that I've played, but I do think it's no secret that the two that I've played are the biggest two on this list. That's Balatro and Pokemon. Man, I think Balatro is going to win other categories for sure. You know what? Man, my thing is, I don't think people necessarily associate Balatro with mobile gaming. I think because it released on Steam first, and it was big on Steam, and then it came to consoles even, and I think, had another boost, and then it came to mobile, I do think that people are going to overlook it for this category, plus, like I said, other categories that I do think it will win. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring for Pokemon.
All right. Like you, I'm also looking at two games on this list. I'm surprised Zenless Zone Zero here. I feel like a lot of people didn't really care for that game when it came out. It didn't pop. It didn't pop as much as they wanted to. I was planning to pop for it, and it didn't even happen for me. And so I'm between Balatro and Pokemon as well. But my vote will have to be for Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket.
Okay.
Because of one thing, and that's because it is a vertical oriented game, or portrait mode oriented game.
Yes.
I feel like that's major for me for mobile games, and I think for a lot of people as well.
So
plus it's Pokemon.
That recently came up on Kinda Funny.
Oh yeah?
Is that a thing? Like, people really have that much of a disdain for turning your phone sideways?
For me, it does, because let's see, like when I think mobile gaming, I'm thinking I am sitting on the bus and I have an hour to kill.
Okay.
Usually when I'm on the bus, it's crowded and I'll need to hang on to something, right? To stay steady.
Okay, gotcha now.
My other hand is free. I have my AirPods in, I'm listening to a podcast or music or whatever. So now I have one hand to play my game, and that's why Marvel Snap worked so well for me when I worked downtown. It's because I could play it with one hand, and the attention I needed for it wasn't 100%. It was like maybe 50, 60%, and I could still progress. So that's why Pokemon is also on that, just because it's vertical. I'm pretty sure all the other ones, maybe AFK Journey's a portrait mode game as well. I think I've seen screenshots, but yeah.
Well, you have convinced me. You've made me see the light as to why portrait mode is the way to go. Because when I heard that argument, I was like, I work from home. I sit at my desk all day. I don't ride the bus. So anyways, I get it now.
Fair enough. All right. Next category. Best debut indie game. For best debut game created with a new independent studio, we have Animal Well. And I'll shout out the developers as well, since that's what this category is highlighting. Animal Well by Shared Memory and Big Mode Publishing. Balatro from Local Thunk / Playstack. Manor by Slavic Magic and Hooded Horse. Pacific Drive by Ironwood Studios and Kepler Interactive. And The Plucky Squire from All Possible Futures and Devolver. For my pick, all right, best debut game. I feel like this would go all directions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to give it to Animal Well. I think those who played it will see it as more of a video game.
Mm-hmm.
But I know Balacho's pretty close as well, so I'm going to vote for Animal Well.
Fair enough. And I'm definitely with you in that. I think this comes down to Animal Well and Balatro. Animal Well being the breakout hit from Video Game Donkeys studio.
Oh, yeah. Big Mode.
Yep. I'm going to give it to... I definitely see a world where Animal Well takes it, but I'm going to give it to Balatro. Knowing that Balatro was, as far as I know, I think basically a one-man team. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure it was almost entirely developed by literally one guy, which is just crazy. And the breakout success it had, I'm giving it to Balatro.
Excellent. Next category. Best Independent Game for Outstanding Creative...
Wait a second. Isn't that the category we just did? We did Best Debut Indie.
Indie game, and now Best Independent Game for Outstanding Creative and Technical Achievement in a game made outside of the traditional publisher system. We have Animal Well, Balatro, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Neva, and UFO 50.
I'd like to amend my previous statement, and I'm going to give Best Debut Indie Game to Animal Well, just like you did.
Okay. And, it's your pick again.
And I'm going to give Balatro Best Indie Game.
I'm also going to give Balatro Best Indie
Game. Fair enough. I was looking at that last category and thinking, I feel like there's a better category that Balatro fits into, but I don't know what it is. And then you click next, and I went, oh, there it is. So, yeah, we're on the same page.
Excellent. Balatro. Mm-hmm. Next category, and we love indie games, but
yes,
not much else to say. I feel like it's pretty set there this year. Best Community Support. Recognizing a game for outstanding community support, transparency, and responsiveness, inclusive of social media activity and game updates and patches. And man, this webpage is starting to chug. Ooh. All right. Our nominees: Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Helldivers, and No Man's Sky. I feel like 4 out of 5 of these have been the past years' same ones. So
yeah.
See,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure Baldur's Gate was on there last year too.
At least 3 of these have been in this category 3 years in a row.
I know, right? Give some other games a chance.
Well, I guess the community's got to support some other games. Where's my Overwatch? Come on,
get there one day. We'll get there one day.
That's right. Sure.
Was it my pick first?
Yeah,
it's community support. I don't know. It just feels like at a certain point, like with Fortnite, I'm gonna pick on it. It's just a machine, right? We know what we're getting every month, every year. It's going to be another collab. It's going to be a new season. There's going to be some surprises. Oh my gosh, I can't believe they got Snoop Dogg.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and same with Final Fantasy 14. It's just a machine.
Yeah.
That yes, it is a community supporting machine, but yeah, I think I'm going to give it to Helldivers. I think at the beginning, at least from when I played, the storytelling they were doing with and how they were changing the levels and all the factions and everyone rallying together. That was really fun. That felt like a game that existed outside of the actual game.
Metagame.
The metagame. So I'm going to give it to Helldivers.
Yeah. I am going to echo everything that you just said. I think it's, again, coming down to the categories a bit because there's community support and then there's also a category for I believe, ongoing game.
And, oh my gosh, there is.
Yeah, I think that's the one right before this.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see an argument for both those categories for both Helldivers and Fortnite. But I'm giving this one community support to Helldivers because of the way the community rallied around the game, the way the developers spurred that on and engaged with the community, but also listened to the community. Because one thing that people may forget is earlier this year, there was a big hullabaloo because PlayStation, the publisher of Helldivers, came down and said on Steam, you now have to create a PlayStation Network account just so you can earn trophies and, of course, be tied to Sony. And a lot of people threw their arms up and weren't happy with that decision. And the success of Helldivers convinced Sony to undo their doing. So I think that the community really rallied behind Helldivers in, not necessarily a negative way, but they rallied around the game for a cause, if you will, and forced one of the big three to, pivot. So,
yeah, that's a good point. Can't believe that happened this year. That was a really big deal.
Feels like forever ago. That was awesome. Like what, February, March? Probably March.
Yeah. Next category, best ongoing.
There it is.
Like we said a little earlier, literally 2 minutes ago.
Yep.
Best ongoing awarded to a game for outstanding development of ongoing content that evolves the player experience over time.
Mm-hmm.
In this category, we have Destiny 2, we have Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Helldivers 2. Did you say that? I said Destiny 2. Your pick first, Jordan.
Oh. I am going to give this one to Fortnite, although, like you said, it feels like the machine, it feels like it never ends. To me, that's this category. But the other big thing that people might forget about Fortnite earlier this year, is that Fortnite branched out and became so much more than Fortnite. It became Fortnite Racing, I think is what it's officially called.
Rocket Racing.
Rocket Racing, there it is. It became Lego Fortnite, another family game that I have played with my child quite a bit. And then, of course, the traditional Fortnite as well. And the Fortnite rock band.
Oh, Fortnite Festival.
Fortnite Festival, there it is.
Yep.
Yeah. So, sorry, I was like, I know there were 3 components. There's classic Fortnite and then 3 others. So I'm hopeful that people will remember that was the case, because to me, this is the first time in a long time Fortnite has really, truly done something new. So, yeah.
I also get that they're trying to compete with Roblox. Like, I feel like those two are head to head.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Roblox isn't on here. Like, not that it needs to be.
It's got to be an audience thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be.
That's very true.
I don't know any critics that play or engage with Roblox, right? And the critics are who nominate, for the most part, these categories,
that's
right?
True.
So
the kids are playing Roblox. I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Fortnite, I think, because it's such a behemoth and machine, it has to innovate on itself, and they are doing it, and they are trying, and they have a lot of power now, especially with like Disney's backing them now, and I'm pretty sure if they want to make a brand deal with anyone, they got it. So Fortnite for me. Next category, games for impact, for a thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message. We have Closer to Distance, Indica?
Indica, yeah.
Neva, Life is Strange Double Exposure, Senua Saga Hellblade 2, and Tales of Kenzera Zao. It's a tricky one for me.
I'm glad you're first.
I feel like some games are missing on here, but I don't know what. If I had to pick one, just based on theme and people's responses, probably pick Neva.
Okay.
From Nomada Studios. It's definitely one of the games on this list that I do want to play eventually one day, but I feel like that looks like a game that's artsy. All these games are artsy. All games are art, but this one looks artsy for like a message kind of meaning.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah. What about you, Jordan? Yeah.
My vote is going to Closer the Distance. I I don't have a ton to say about it or really any of these, although I have played a couple of them, briefly at least. But Closer to the Distance, I feel like, the tough part is I don't know that it will have that much critical push behind it. I don't know that many people played it to vote for it in this category.
Yeah.
But to me, in a lot of ways, it kind of strikes me as the only one that actually really like fits this category. Like, I understand that the other ones have maybe a deeper message behind them, and there are themes, behind all of them. But I feel like Closer to the Distance fits the impact, the most kind of thing.
Fair enough. Usually the ones that win this category are like not necessarily the most popular game.
True.
A lot of the times it is, one that maybe not too many folks have played, but so however the voting works out. Closer to Distance. I'll check it out. I haven't heard of it before. Let's see, next category. Innovation in accessibility. Recognizing software and or hardware that is pushing the medium forward by adding features, technology, and content to help games be played and enjoyed by even a wider audience. So that includes features that help with people with disabilities, maybe like motor function kind of disabilities, but also visual and sound. So in this category, it is Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Diablo 4, Dragon Age The Veilguard, Prince of Persia The Lost Crown, and Star Wars Outlaws.
I gotta ask you, did you hear much on the accessibility side on any of these games?
Not really. I want to say I have experience with one of these games, but I don't think I've seen too much championing of that. But to be fair, I feel like there's been a lot less of that this year. I know Steve Saylor, fellow Canadian, talks a lot about accessibility, but I feel like this year there's been a lot less emphasis on that kind of stuff when you do those like feature showcases. So
yeah, that's the impression that I've got as well. And it's funny because to me, like a big sort of champion of that in recent years has been Sony, right? With the recent Spider-Man games that have come out, God of War, The Last of Us. Typically, these big major first-party releases, they have done a big feature on here's all the accessibility we've been working on.
Yeah.
And usually they're bringing in, experts in the field. Like Steve Saylor actually has consulted on a number of games and things like that. And I don't feel like we've seen a lot of that this year, which is too bad because it's good to see the industry moving towards it. But then you have a year like this where I feel like we haven't seen that. So, maybe could just be that these publishers and developers haven't highlighted it that much. Two of these are Ubisoft games. Interesting that Call of Duty says Activision/Xbox and Diablo says Blizzard/Xbox, but not Activision. I don't know that I have much of a good pick here. I'll throw my name behind Veilguard because I don't know if it is nominated in many, if any, other categories.
I feel like that game. So I have a pick, and my pick is Diablo 4.
Okay.
I got to dip my toes into that game this year, picked it up on sale and played it on Steam Deck.
Nice.
And immediately on the Steam Deck with the smaller screen, I was like, man, it's a little hard to see how dark it is. So I checked out the accessibility settings, and there were definitely tons, like from even the way you want your camera to zoom in and out or how far in and out you want. And the one that I kept on the entire time is like change your player's character. So I changed mine to like a nice bright yellow.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just able to see where my character is all the time. So Diablo 4 has a lot of settings for that. So appreciate it.
Okay, fair enough.
Next category is Best Performance, awarded to an individual for voiceover acting, motion, and or performance capture. In this category, we have Brianna White for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hannah Tell for Life is Strange Double Exposure, Humberly Gonzalez for Star Wars Outlaws, Luke Roberts in Silent Hill 2, and Melina Jurgens for Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. I have played none of these games to be able to see any of their performances. So, have you, Jordan?
Not Rebirth, but I played some of Remake.
Who does Brianna White play?
Eris.
Oh,
or
okay.
if you're a fan of Kingdom Hearts 1, Eris. Why? It's a localization thing. Anyways, it's silly, but I'm going to put my money behind Brianna White. If I'm not mistaken, I think she got some notoriety, whatever you want to call it, popularity, from her performances in Final Fantasy, because there was something online where, like, I think she was sharing a clip or something of her reacting to people hearing her, seeing her in the game for the first time or something like that. My memory's a little foggy on it. Yeah, she seemed like it was cool. It was cool. That's what I'll say. So,
okay.
That's my pick.
I'm going to go with Melina Juergens for Senua's Saga. Just because she's won it before and I want to see her win it again.
Fair enough.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Next category is Best Audio Design. I think we only got a few left. We got Audio, Music, Art, Narrative, Direction, and Game of the Year. So Best Audio Design. Recognizing the best in-game audio and sound design: Astrobot, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. I forget who was voting. I can go first.
I think last one was technically you, but neither of us had much of an opinion, so we just kind of,
I'm going to give my vote to Astrobot.
Cool. Me too.
Perfect. I quite enjoyed the music and just the sounds that would come out of your controller, and just everything sounded cute and pleasant and bubbly.
Yep.
So, and it like it worked in the gameplay as well, right? Like in a very simple way where it's like, hey, I'm over here, and you're like suddenly spinning the camera around to look at stuff.
Yeah.
Or when the robot asks you to kick its butt to capture it.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, all the noises were super funny.
Yeah.
so Astrobot for me.
Definitely. I agree.
Awesome. Next category? Similarly, Outstanding Music, or Best Score and Music for Outstanding Music, inclusive of score, original song, and/or licensed soundtrack. We have Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantasio, Silent Hill 2, and Stellar Blade. Don't have too much strong opinion on this one. Jordan, I think you're first.
I'll go first on this one. Mm-hmm. My heart really says Astrobot. One of the few games that while playing it, I said to myself, I hope this music is on Spotify, because I was very much willing to go listen to it, in the same way that I will occasionally put on the Crash Bandicoot soundtracks. I have such fond memories of the Crash Bandicoot music that, like, sometimes driving in the car, you put those on, and I'm amazed at how well I can recall them from my childhood. Astrobot really leaned into that, plucked those strings, if you will, and my daughter actually will request to listen to the Astrobot soundtrack sometimes in the car too, which is fun. The other thing that they did that was really cool was those, minor spoilers for Astrobot, those themed levels where you take on another PlayStation or character and you play through a level themed after their game. I think it's no secret that there's a God of War level. And they did renditions of sort of the title tracks or the theme songs behind those games in those levels, but, they took the God of War theme song and said, make it Astrobot. And they really pulled that off so well that I just talked myself into voting for Astrobot.
So there you go.
I just realized I'm saying all this stuff, and like all I'm doing is saying why I think it should be Astrobot. So the other one for me is that it could go to Metaphor, because I've heard very good things about the battle music and the track behind that, but I'm going to throw it behind Astrobot.
Yeah. I feel like this started as what do we think the industry will vote for? But now it's just like, no, we are the industry. We will vote.
That's how I feel.
I also think it's Astrobot. I think everyone else will feel the same way. It's the remixes. Yeah. And for me, like similarly to you, there's one part where no spoilers, but one of the crossover levels, I was like, oh, I can't believe I remember this music from my childhood, and it's all Astrobot themed, so that's good. I think Astrobot, they did really well with the music.
Yeah,
it's different. compared to all these kind of orchestra symphony stuff on the list. So hopefully it cuts through.
I should mention, although I think Astrobot is definitely my favorite as well, I do see it winning partially because I think more people will have played it than Metaphor.
Yes.
Even though I've heard great things about the soundtrack behind Metaphor and Final Fantasy, honestly. I think more people will have played Astrobot than Metaphor. So
there's always that caveat, like how popular the game is within the voting committee.
Very true.
Next category, we have Best Art Direction for Outstanding Creative and or Technical Achievement in Artistic Design and Animation. Astrobot is on this list again. Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Neva.
What is the category after this one?
After
if
this one would be Best Narrative.
Narrative. Okay, so this is the only art direction category.
Mm-hmm.
Is it me? Is it you?
I know. I have a vote, though.
Okay, you go ahead.
Minutes. I think this one goes to Black Myth Wukong.
Okay.
I think, when I think art direction, I also think like graphics and what has the best graphics out of all these. And I think it would have to be Black Myth. When the game first got revealed, everyone was like, whoa, this looks unreal. And it is Unreal Engine 5. So everyone thought this looked crazy. And like the way they adapted Chinese mythology into like just a really cool modern art style, I think was really clever. I haven't played it yet personally, but it's definitely on my bucket list before I die to play it, just like Metaphor. And yeah, I think this game also kind of broke out of my gaming circle. Like my parents asked me about it. She was like, really? Are you playing the Wukong game? I was like, how'd you hear about this? I was like, no. But I plan to play it. And she's like, yeah, they were talking about it on the news. Like China's very proud of this game because it was just so graphically impressive and it is a good game. So so I think Black Myth Wukong.
I mean, interesting to hear you say all that because it has that, obviously the story is based on Chinese mythology. And if you look at the voting block behind these nominations, there's a large block from of Chinese outlets. I could definitely see it going to Black Myth. Yeah, that might be the right call. I think people underestimate. I'm picking Black Myth as well.
Right.
I do think that's the right call. I think people underestimate the art direction behind Erdtree because they just see it as fantasy, Dark Souls fantasy style, Elden Ring fantasy style. But man, the stuff they do with the characters in that and the world building and making it all come together, it's so good. So, anyways, I'm going for Black Myth.
All right, we have 3 more categories left.
Hooray!
Let's get to it. Best Narrative for Outstanding Storytelling and Narrative Development of a Game. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Senua Saga Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. Jordan, you want to pick first?
Sure.
Or should I? Or we can just do a popcorn style.
Yeah, I'll go on this one. We can get back to alternating if you want. It doesn't matter. We got 3 categories.
We're almost done.
Yeah. My pick's going to Metaphor. I think everything I've heard about the narrative behind this game is that it's not only is it well told and a very there's some very good themes behind it, but in terms of certain political events going on throughout the world and maybe slightly focused around the United States, I think the timing that it dropped was poignant. So I'm gonna go for Metaphor.
I did not know that, but I was gonna vote for Metaphor as well.
Okay.
Just from what I've heard. But
fair enough.
That your information just solidifies my vote.
I also want to point out that I think people were not too pleased with Final Fantasy. So in terms of narrative,
yeah,
very much a filler.
I kind of had that feeling even before the game came out. It's like, how are you going to tell the middle part of a story?
Yeah.
Like the first part can hook people in.
Totally.
All right. Second last category of the night. Best Game Direction, awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design, whatever that means. We have Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio.
I know where my vote goes.
This is just a vision. Go ahead. I need a second to think.
Okay. This one and art direction, I think, are very closely tied. But I do look at this more so as what is the whole package, right? Does the gameplay, the art, the sound, does it all come together and form sort of a very cohesive vision behind the game? And I got to go Astrobot. Everything just ties together so perfectly in that game. Right down to, you hear interviews with the developer and the lead kind of says, how closely they worked with their partners to bring some of those flavors into Astrobot from other games, how closely they worked to get those actions and the little bonus things that the characters do to really match the style and the feel of those games and really kind of convey the feelings that you had when, you see Tomb Raider in Astrobot or whatever, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I got to go Astrobot.
Interesting. I thought you were going to say Balatro because that's my pick.
Okay. Okay.
So I think innovation is the one that sticks out to me more, the word innovation. Like, how have these games evolved the genre? And I guess Balatro is kind of like, it's a pretty standard roguelite at the end of the day. You're getting new items. You're trying to go as far as you can. But I think it just took it took poker ideas, like the poker hands at least. That's really all it is.
Yeah.
And kind of flipped it on its head and made it a roguelite. And it's addicting. It's fast. It's snappy. The UI is good. The theming is all there.
Yeah.
Could have leaned a little bit more into certain parts, I think. But Balatro is my pick, actually, for game direction.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, these are the final categories because they're the tough ones, right? You could really make an argument, I think, for almost any of these games in these categories. So,
speaking of final category,
that's right.
Our last one, Game of the Year. Recognize a game that delivers the absolute best experience across all creative and technical fields. This is a tough one. On this list, this is like the same list.
It very much is.
Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio.
All right, now...
This is the same list. This is weird.
I've got to ask, did you make your picks for or did you predict what you thought the Game of the Year nominees would be before seeing these?
I did. Should we share those?
I think we should share those now.
So last week, Jordan told me to make a list about what my guesses are for Game of the Year, and Jordan did the same, and we'll share them now. So before I saw this Game of the Year list, I thought the GOTY list was going to be, and I picked 8 games because they kind of change it up every year.
They do.
I thought it was going to be Pal World, which is actually not anywhere in the Game Awards. Helldivers 2, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree, Balatro, Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Dragon Age the Veilguard, and Dragon's Dogma 2.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. What about you?
I wouldn't have been surprised to see many of those on there. I did only pick 6, which wound up being a good number, I guess, because that's exactly how many they did. The only difference I have in my list from this list in front of us, which is Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth, Erd Tree, Final Fantasy, and Metaphor, the only difference I have is Black Myth. I have Helldivers 2 instead of Black Myth.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that people didn't vote Helldivers 2 on here partially because, again, it's hard to account for recency bias. I think that Helldivers 2 released early enough in the year that people forget just how big it was when it came out. There was such a groundswell around that game from fans, critics, and everywhere, right? Like, it's a game that, similar to what you were saying about Black Myth, like, my sister-in-law is talking to me about Helldivers because her boyfriend is playing it and, like, got a PS5 to play it with his friends and is playing it every night and has his headset on and is shouting at them in the living room and stuff like that. And this is from someone who, like, last played the Wii, So, to me, I think Helldivers actually deserves to be on here. I understand Black Myth being on here, but I do feel a little bit like it's, I mean, like I said, there's a decent number of Chinese outlets that were casting their votes in these nominations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, obviously that's where the nominations come from. So I think that's a big reason why it got on here. Obviously, the majority of people voted for it. Whether they were those outlets or not, they did. But the reception I heard over here and from the media I listened to didn't make it sound like it was Game of the Year. So,
well, we have to make a choice or make a guess.
Yes, we
Who
do.
we think will win.
And I think I know which one my pick is.
Ooh, it's tough for me. In my heart, I have a pick, right?
Yeah.
But I think...
And it's Tree. Just kidding.
Oh.
No, that's not my pick. I was saying that you were picking it.
No. I think it might be Black Myth Wukong.
Really?
I think it will.
Okay.
I think it will. I think people will vouch for that game. It has an audience big in China, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like enough people here also enjoyed it.
Yeah.
That it will it will catch on. I think it's accessible.
Fair enough.
What about you?
Astrobot.
Yeah.
Hands down, I think Astrobot is going to clean up these awards. It is often my personal pick. However, in a lot of these categories, it's, one of 2 or 3 games that I played in the category. So it's easy for me to pick Astrobot. I just really think that Astrobot was the complete package. I struggle to think about how they would improve on Astrobot in an Astrobot 2. To the point of like, it makes me be a little bit like, maybe they shouldn't make a sequel. How do you improve on perfection? So,
well, I know it rhymes with Pulty Slayer.
Oh, I see. But to me, like, does that really improve the experience? Because I would much rather play Super Mario Brothers, like the classic 2D side-scrolling, by myself than with another person chasing after me like you did on the Wii or the Wii U versions.
Yeah.
So, that's all I'm saying. But I get what you're saying as well. So, so your pick is Black Myth, hey? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go against the grain here.
Okay, fair enough.
My Hail Mary. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our predictions episode for Grow Up, Level Up Gamers Club. Our first actual Game Award predictions episode. There will be many more to come. Come back in December where we will see how much we got right, how much we got wrong. If we agree or disagree with the picks, maybe our surprises, and we'll break that down next month.
Mm-hmm.
What about your picks? What do you think should have been on the list? What categories do you think will have what predictions? That's what I'm trying to say. Who do you think will win which category? Write them down in the comments below or message them to us everywhere that you can find us. We'll be back next week with some sort of episode, maybe a follow-up what we've been playing. I think next week will be a short week for us, so we got to figure out when we are. But to stay in the loop of what we are doing, you can find us at Grow Up Level Up on all your socials, as well as Blue Sky. I think we're trying to be more active on there. You can find me at Samson XP on all the socials, or on Blue Sky at smsn.bluesky.social. You can find Jordan at
Sir Dr. JM. That's Sir DRJM on Blue Sky. Just go to Blue Sky. Blue Sky is the only one I care about now.
Yeah, it's nice. I like that platform. But thank you so much for sticking out this through this entire episode. It was an extra long one. So appreciate you for listening till the end if you are still here. Jordan, please, what are your famous words of wisdom to end off the night?
More sass, less ass.
What the heck?